Okay, Alexander, let's talk about the big, big protests, real protests in Berlin. According to the BBC, their title says Germany, the C word, anti C word, protest in Berlin draws thousands. They pegged it at, let me see, I think they pegged it at 18,000 people. About 18,000 people took part in Saturday's march, police said. Alexander, if the BBC, and I've seen this from various other outlets, they've had it around 20,000. If they say it's 20,000, I think it was more like 100,000 from the photos that I've seen and the videos that I've seen from the event. Yeah. Now, this one's a little controversial from the fact that I believe the Merkel government tried to ban this protest, and it actually got overturned, I believe, in a German court as well. So I mean that's also a pretty significant development. So it looks like people are just getting fed up with the whole thing. So get into this story and maybe. Yeah.
It's not surprising. I just have to. I mean, I maybe I shouldn't say this, but I'm going to
Careful with the words you use, by the way.
Yeah, I'm going to be very careful with the words I use. But I mean, it's very interesting that Mrs. Merkel and all sorts of European leaders are getting on their high horses talking about protests in Minsk and banning protests in Minsk and how wrong that is. And of course, they're very happy to ban protests in Berlin. That's a mischievous point, but I think a valid one. I say that because there were threats at one point, by the way, to launch the riot police against these people and to violently disperse these protests, which I think would have been disproportionate and wrong. And of course, they're always very happy to say that when it happens in other countries. But of course, people are fed up, and it's completely understandable why they are fed up, because this whole thing started way back in March. We're now in August. We were told that it was all, sorted out, and Germany was promoting itself as being, the great success story. And of course, it's turned out that it isn't actually such a great success story after all. And they're going to have to put, or at least they're talking about reimposing more restrictions. And unsurprisingly, completely unsurprisingly, people are saying enough's enough. We can't tolerate this anymore. We need to return to normal life. And the German government, like all other governments, Western governments around the world, doesn't seem to have a genuine policy, a real way of moving forward, dealing with this health emergency, sorting it out, which doesn't involve authoritarian reactions. We did a recent program about Australia and New Zealand, and we said that was the case there, and it's now happening in Germany. In Germany, as I said, they were the German government was claiming that it had been, tremendously successful, and it turns out it hasn't been. And now, of course, it's facing protests. And if you know Berlin and the people of Berlin, it won't surprise you at all that the epicenter of those protests is Berlin, where there is a very, very strong freedom-loving tradition. So it doesn't surprise me. None of this story surprises me. Firstly, that people are fed up with it. Secondly, that Merkel wanted to ban it. Thirdly, that she wanted to throw the riot police at it. And fourthly, that she seems to be clueless about what to do. Wait for the great vaccine. That seems to be the entire solution.
What does that tell you, though, about Merkel? I mean, it seems to me that she's panicking at the fact that people are starting to actually, for lack of a better word, rise up. I mean, people just want to live the normal life that they were living before all of this happened. So I don't even know if rise up is a proper word, but people are just basically saying, look, enough. And it seems to me that Merkel is panicking at such a simple fact that people just want to live their normal life, which to me means that Merkel and every Merkel in every country, all the country's leaders, are trying to move people away from that normal life. And they're starting to panic.
Well, Merkel has no idea what to do, and she never has done. I mean, she's never really been, contrary to what people think, she's never really been in charge of Germany's response to the health crisis. That was delegated to the Robert Koch Institute, a bunch of scientists who did what they did. But Merkel herself is a person who never has plans. I think this is an important thing to understand about Merkel. She's very opportunistic, very skilled at taking credit for what other people do, very good at transferring the blame onto others, has very powerful media allies that assist her to do that, says very little. She's extremely inscrutable and avoids appearing very often and speaking to the German people directly. When she does, by the way, on the very rare occasions that she does, it's so unusual that it attracts attention. But she always tends to hide behind others. And of course, she's been caught out because she has no real response. And a person who has no ideas and no response always reaches for the authoritarian one, because when the emperor has no clothes, or the empress in this case, and by the way, I've previously historically written an article saying that Merkel was the empress without clothes, but when the empress is without clothes, she wants to scare people into thinking otherwise. So it's not surprising that she wants to bring out the riot police and threaten people and do all those things, even at the same time as she's criticizing others in Belarus and places like that of doing the same thing.
All right. Is what we see in Berlin going to be a trend throughout Europe, you think?
It's already happened in London. I wasn't here because I was on leave in the Peak District, but there's been a big protest of exactly the same sort in London. So of course it will be. I mean, there will be more places where it happens.
Will it shape policy? Will it get some of the policy makers and the leaders of various European countries to start maybe rethinking the way they approach things?
I don't know. I don't think so, actually, because again, I don't really think they have many clear ideas. I mean, this is a situation that they have no real idea what to do about. So I think they're just drifting along. In Britain, at least, I get no sense of any real plan or any real idea of the way forward, or any real approach to this thing that either addresses the needs of people or that deals with the health crisis itself. On the contrary, what I'm hearing in Britain is that things are as disorganized and as chaotic as they have ever been, and that the people at the centre in Whitehall and Westminster are as confused as always. And I suspect in Germany it's the same.
Mm-hmm. So how does this resolve itself? I mean, is it just like what you said? You just wait for that
magical vaccine,
that magic cure, whatever that is, and it all just resolves? Or does this just fade away and people just start to live their normal life and they say, screw it? I mean,
I don't know. One thing I've got to say is that the medical science has moved forward considerably, and there's an awful lot more understanding of the illness at the center of this than there used to be, and methods of treatment have improved apparently considerably. So it could gradually fade away, or it could be that, one of these treatments that we've been hearing about and the vaccines come along and start to make a difference. I think that if we're still in the same situation in a year's time, then things will begin to turn very ugly, maybe sooner than a year.
A year's time?
Sooner than
3 months' time.
Sooner than a year. Christmas, the New Year. By then, maybe, things will start to turn very ugly.
Things on lockdown indefinitely. I mean,
no,
it's obvious.
No, they can't. I ought to quickly add that I don't believe that there's any, plan to do that either, because the economic consequences are so bad, and other countries that are handling this thing differently are moving economically ahead, and they're not countries sometimes that are friendly to the West. So there is a geopolitical. Well, China, Russia to some extent. I mean, there is a geopolitical dimension to this also, which we shouldn't underestimate. So I think that will perhaps, even more than the protests, actually start to put pressures on policymakers before very long.
Do you think what happens in the U.S. elections, real quick, come November, is going to affect if you make the assumption that the November elections will affect how the U.S. handles this illness. Once again, I'm choosing my words carefully because of the YouTube censors. Do you think Europe will follow suit and also deal with this illness differently come November?
It will make a dramatic difference. I mean, if we have Biden, then we will see, Merkel on the Merkel policies on steroids. If we have Trump, there will be a different approach. And what the US does has a major effect on what happens in Europe also. So it will make a major difference, and be under no doubt about that. I mean, Britain, for one thing, will certainly follow the lead that the US takes, whichever it is. So there's no doubt at all about that in my mind.
All right. Okay, we'll leave it there. Alexander Merkel, Editor-in-Chief of the Duran. Thank you very much, guys. If you like this video, click on the subscribe button down below. Also, make sure to drop us a comment if you like this video. We enjoy reading your comments very much. And please donate to us on PayPal, Patreon, and Subscribestar. Your donation really helps out this small channel. And please go to the Duran shop, pick up some merchandise, pick up some magic mugs, pick up some enamel mugs, some new t-shirts, magic hats, trucker caps, all kinds of good stuff.
Absolutely. I mean, these are our famous enamel mugs you now see with our country flags. And of course, we've also got our new enameled ones, which I took with me on my recent walking holiday in the Peak District. That was, by the way, why I missed the protest in London, because I was out of London, in the mountains in the middle of the rain, because it was pouring with rain here, but never mind. So you will find all these amazing magic mugs. If you don't, by the way, find your own country's flag. This is the flag of England, and this is the flag of Greece. And I've got the United States somewhere too. There it is. There's the United States. If you don't find your own country's flag, wait a little. Alex is producing new mugs all the time with lots of different flags. So more likely than not, it will appear very soon. And if it doesn't, well, just drop us a line and we will do what we can to help and accommodate you. And by the way, this is Germany, just in case people could see, we've just been talking about Germany. So lots of countries, lots of flags, lots of mugs with those flags, and lots of new shirts. Also, Alex is expanding our range of shirts tremendously. And he talked about the new hats that we're getting, truckers hats and baseball caps and embroidered hats and amazing new things in our shop. And we've also got an ever-expanding gallery of ebooks too. So you come to our shop, you can buy these great things, you can support the Duran, and you can also be the owner of these wonderful things. So Alex will just quickly remind you at the end of this broadcast how to do that.
Just go to the duranshop.com. You'll find the link underneath this video in the description box down below. Alexander Merkel, thank you very much. Until next time, everybody, take care.